Hey, aloha everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness and StandTogetherHawaii.com. I'm here on the big island of Hawaii and I'm interviewing Captain Matt Dankin, 33-year firefighter, retired captain, and a freedom fighter. He has a great story today. We're going to be talking about his court dealings and how he went in and some of the things he said actually had a judge leave the courtroom because you guys, this is a total game, and I'm even going to say total sham on free people. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you helping get this information out there.
Absolutely. And I do want to let people know that I am doing a detox. I'm a specialist in fitness and wellness, and one of the biggest things right now with the bombardment of food, water, air, of toxins on our bodies, of parasites that microscopic parasites that go into our bodies, we got to be cleansing. We got to be cleansing. If you have any gut issues, just join blossominnerwellness.com, blossominnerwellness.com, and you'll learn more about the detox that I'm running May 13th to cleanse people's bodies and help them feel better. So, after that, let's talk about your court case. So, first of all, why did you get pulled over?
So this whole driving slash traveling thing has bothered me for a while. Once you learn what your rights are and you learn that you're giving them up by doing certain things, if you like freedom or love freedom like I do, and you don't want to give away your rights, then you're going to exercise them and take them back. And unfortunately, we've all been deceived into believing that in order to travel from point A to point B in our private capacity, not having anything to do with commerce, that we need to have a license to be out on the roads. And that is absolutely not true. It is 100% not true, but that's what we've been all been taught and told to believe. But when you look at
Mhm.
the law, you look at case law, look at all even their own codes and statutes, it clearly shows that that is not the case. So as you know, I'm believe in the Constitution and the rights that it protects, the inalienable rights that it is supposed to protect from our public servants. And so I've been down this rabbit hole for quite a few years now. And the driving slash traveling one is probably the hardest one. And even though it's the cheapest one, unlike property taxes and other things, we're really giving up a lot of our rights when we go ahead
Yeah.
and get that license and register our car. We're giving it into their system under their rules and giving them ownership um, over that. So what I did is over the summer, I took my car and I tried to get the MCO or MSO. I was unable to do that. I
What
got
is that?
Yes, the manufactured certificate of origin or manufactured statement of origin that comes when the car is made. That
Why is that important?
that's the highest title for the car.
Oh,
Because as
highest
soon as you
title. Okay.
register it, like with the state of California, they get rid of that. And now they are basically, there's the legal ownership and the uh, beneficial ownership. And that's how they divide it out. So if you look at the title on your car, it'll stay right at the top, state of California,
Hmm.
certificate of title, whatever. So
That's right.
they really own your car. That's why you're paying every year, you're paying money to them in order to use it.
Rent it. You're renting
Yeah,
your car.
yeah.
Hmm.
So similar to our houses. So, and it's never been that. It's supposed to be that way. So I wrote a letter to the Secretary of State asking for any ownership interest. And this was from other people that I learned from. I didn't figure this out on my own, but others that I've learned from, like Joe Lustica talked about this. Anyways, and I sent a letter to the state of California, the Secretary of State, asking for any ownership interest. Never got anything back. I gave him 15 days to respond. Otherwise, he'd be or she would be in agreement. I forget, I think it was a female, be in agreement that the state has no ownership interest in my car.
So
So
you sent an affidavit then?
yes,
Hmm. Was that
yeah,
right?
it was a questionnaire.
Oh,
It
okay.
was notarized. I don't know that I don't remember. I have it somewhere here, but if it was an actual affidavit, I basically made them prove any ownership interest. Otherwise, they were going to be in agreement that that the state of California has no ownership interest in my car. And then I sent out letters to the Secretary of State as well as the local sheriffs around the three closest counties to me, claiming, in affidavit form and basically showing them the law, showing them my rights as a free man to be able to travel in my private capacity without registering or licensing my car. And I gave them, I think 20 or 30 days to rebut that. And after 20 or 30 days, I gave them another 10 days when I didn't hear from them and nobody responded. And so I let them know. And then after another 10 days, they were all in tacit agreement that I have a right to travel in my private capacity without licensing with the state or registering my car with the state.
Because they hadn't responded to you.
Yes, then they have a duty to. So,
That's right.
so anyway, so I got all that done ahead of time. And then when my registration expired on my car, I didn't re-register it. I actually registered it as non-op because in my view, I'm not operating it in quote unquote the state of California, which is basically just a political subdivision, a corporation. It's a political subdivision of the United States federal corporation. And when you look at where the jurisdiction is based on Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution, that's a 10-mile square area in DC. So, and these
So
are all,
let's break that down for everybody real quick. So the area of DC, District of Columbia, 10 square miles is where the United States is. And so can you explain that a little bit
yeah,
more?
yeah, it's actually 10 miles square. So it's actually like, it's a little less than 10 miles square. It's like 70 square miles, but it's a 10-mile square per the Constitution. And it is over there in District of Columbia, and Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 states that that's the District of the United States Federal Corporation. See, they named in 1871, they named the Federal Corporation, they named it United States. So that's what
So
tricks everybody.
let's, you guys, they named the federal corporation the United States.
Yeah,
That is the name of the corporation. That is not the name of the actual government of the country of the United States of America. It is the name of the federal corporation. They named it the United States because that is trickery. That
100%. That's exactly what happened. And that federal corporation called United States is located in the District of Columbia,
Mhm.
that 10-mile square area. And under that federal corporation called the United States, there's all these subsidiary corporations such as State of California, State of Nevada, all
That are also businesses and corporations. They are not actual
they
countries
all
or
have DUNS
states.
numbers, Dun and Bradstreet numbers.
Mhm.
Exactly. They're all businesses.
Mhm.
So,
And I just want to remind everybody that still in YouTube probation. So if you're finding this interesting, please like and share this video because the algorithms do not like me. So it'll help get this information out. So that is so interesting around that. And so people think that the United States, when they're talking about the United States, they think they're talking about the country when they're actually talking about the federal corporation, which is a business.
yeah, so whenever you hear anything with the government where it's just United States, it's most likely 90% of the time it's going to be that federal corporation. So you can look up 28 USC 1746 where it talks about sworn declarations, and one within the United States and one without the United States, and that they're referring to that corporation. And that's mind-blowing just looking at that. You can see crystal clear. And we won't get into, I mean, I've done other interviews where I break down where you can find where those definitions are, yeah, I think it's where the federal corporation called the United States is located and all that.
Yeah, we'll do another interview on that to get all that information out. And also you guys, you can go because you're actually in my Freedom School, blossominnerwellness.com. It's free to join. It's a private membership. It's free to join, and you'll have free access to my Freedom School that gives you more information about this. So that's blossominnerwellness.com. But yeah, and I'd love to do another interview with you to go through those definitions. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what happened so you got pulled over. So then tell us more about, so you didn't register your car, and then what
Correct.
happened? And I do want to tell people this, don't do any of this until you feel really confident.
Thank
Okay, don't
you. Yeah.
just do something willy-nilly because we're saying it here on YouTube. This is for information purposes only, entertainment and information purposes only. And you have to do your due diligence to really understand what this is. And part of this is education. So get on blossominnerwellness.com and go to that Freedom School and start your education. Because this is what all of us Americans are kuleana, what is ours to do is to learn this stuff because we have been enslaved by this corporation without knowing it. And if we don't get out of it ourselves, our children will never understand what freedom is because it's going to be getting worse. So thank you so much, Matt. So tell
Yeah,
us
yeah.
this
No, I'm
rest of the
glad you
story.
said that. That is really important. I've I've quote unquote corrected my status or come to understand what the difference between a US citizen is and a national or private state citizen is. And I put it on the record. I've sent the Secretary of State my notice that I choose to be a national with all my God-given inalienable rights. So that's been on the record for 5+ years now.
So I want to pause you right there because that's really good too. The 14th Amendment, everybody, turned what happened was after the Civil War, the black slaves, they what they wanted to do is they didn't want the black slaves to have the same freedoms as everybody else. So what they did was they created the 14th Amendment, but they put the 14th Amendment as part of all of us. And they said that American citizens have privileges, not rights. Privileges. And this, when you say that you're a U.S. citizen, and not American, excuse me, not American, but U.S. citizen, because that is the federal corporation, the United States citizen, then you have privileges. You have the privilege to drive, not the right to drive. And what Matt is saying is that he is a national, which means he has the right to drive freely, freedom of travel under the Constitution, the original Constitution of 1776, not the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen that has the privilege to drive. Is that correct?
100%, 100% correct. And that's a whole nother thing. So to echo what Michelle said a couple minutes ago, this is more advanced. I wouldn't recommend anybody doing this until you
Mm,
fully understand what it means to be private, to be a national of the United States of America, and not to be a US citizen, which was created by Congress. We are under Congress, and you don't have those inalienable rights given to you by your creator once. And most of us all our lives have said that. We've been tricked. We've filled out 1040 forms and we've said, yep, we're proud to be a US citizen, thinking that meant American. No. So until you get all that corrected and embody that in your down to your core of what it means and given notice, I would not recommend doing any of
mhm.
this. The
Yes,
other,
correct.
the other thing is the law enforcement agencies, and I used to train with them as working in the fire department with the hazmat team. I'd go to a lot of different training with law enforcement, and they would vilify and they use the term,
Hmm.
sovereign citizen, and they've basically vilify anybody that wants to take back their rights and get off the plantation as if we're some wacko
Hmm.
don't trying to, feel like we don't want to pay our fair share. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with wanting our inalienable rights and having the correct relationship with our public servants that we're supposed to have. We set the government up, we the people set the government up to serve us and to secure our rights. And that relationship has been flipped on its head to where the government has tricked everybody or almost everybody into being underneath them as US citizens that are bound to every code, statute, regulation, ordinance, and basically serving the government and whatever they decide to put out there. So
Hmm.
so this is really important. And you're dealing with officers who have loaded weapons who have been
Hmm.
given this false sense, this bias against anybody who stands up for their rights. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous when
Hmm.
you're out on the road doing this because you're not always dealing with the highest IQ officers with loaded weapons on their side. And so you have to be careful. And you have to be able to adapt to what you're
Yeah,
getting.
and you don't want to deal with the officers. You want take the ticket if you're going to do this, but you again, don't do this unless you know what the heck you're doing. Because I have seen some things on YouTube that, are not good, especially with people dealing with police officers. You don't want to deal with police officers. You want to deal with the court system if you do this. Because again, the police officers do have weapons and they don't understand what it is you're trying, what it is you're doing. So again, this is for entertainment purposes only and information, and it's up to your kuleana, which is yours, what is yours to do to learn more about this if you want to live in if you want to be out of the system. However, let me just say this too. You can do both because you can have a driver's license and that you have to choose. You get to choose how you're going to live your life. And I just wanted to jump in there and say that as well. But Matt, you're so brave to do this. I love that you did this. And also it's important for our children too, because we're showing the children, hey, are you going to be a slave? Are you going to just let people tell you what to do and live that way? Are you going to be a freedom person under God? The government has moved themselves above the people and actually above God even. They've moved themselves above God, and they're going God, they're going government, God people or something like that. But they even think that they're above God. So,
So yeah, I don't look at it as being brave. I have a desire for freedom and the truth, and we only have the rights that we know that we have and that we are willing to exercise or fight for. I mean, this is nothing. This is doesn't even register on any scale compared to what our founders did. It's
mhm,
not even measurable. This is absolutely nothing. So it's the absolute least minimum anybody can do once they understand this, of start standing up. And because I have the law on my side, I have
mhm,
everything on my side. So here's what happened. So I ended up getting some private plates, put them on my car. I was driving in town, and immediately got pulled over. And they were probably not the best plates to have. I've since changed them to less out in your face plates. They were the Gaston flag, the yellow yellow plate with a rattlesnake. So I would really poke in the bear, and I probably shouldn't have um, been so in their face with it. But I immediately got pulled over. And prior to this, I'd also bought a camera, a video camera. So I had that going because I knew it was just a matter of time. And so cop pulls me over, and immediately, and I had script already planned, what I was going to say, things I was going to say to the cop, I'm not going to say. And dealing with the cops, often less is more. You don't want to say a whole lot, but you want to maybe ask questions. Um, Asking questions is great, but you want to limit to what you're going to say. So the cop comes up and says, hello. I said, hello, officer, how can I help you? You know, what can I help you with? Who goes, license and registration, please. And, I told him I wasn't under a license, wasn't using a license. And he was a little taken back by that. And I said, so what can I help you with? What do you need? And I had a little bit of that attitude. What do you need? What can I help you? I need a license. And I said, well, I told you I'm not using a license. I don't need a license. I'm not. Do you believe I'm involved in commerce, officer? No. I said, well, I don't need a license. I'm traveling in my private capacity. So what can I help you with? And he wouldn't let that go. And in order to drive in the state of California, you need a license. I said, well, the state of California is a corporation. I'm not in there, and I'm not, I'm traveling on my private capacity. And he ends up calling backup, couple. So I had 3 police officers there, and it just so happened that the police chief happened to be in a civilian clothes nearby, and he came by, and this guy was getting really, really, really mad. And finally, because I just wasn't, and I just told him, yeah, I don't answer questions. And I handed him a packet that I had, which basically told him, it's right here, it's a 2-pager. And, it basically tells him the law, what my rights are, and it has a place for him to fill out his information. I said, until you fill this out, I'm not going to be talking to you anymore. And he looked at it and he said, I'm not filling that out. I said, okay, well, then we're done talking. And so anyways, eventually he told me that I needed to get out of the car. And I said, okay, well, what happens if I don't? I said, well, then we're going to pull you out of the car. I said, okay, well, due to threat, duress, I'm getting out of the car, I'll comply. And the police chief came over, and he saw I had a fire sticker on my car. And from when I worked in the fire department. And oh, well, where'd you work? And he was friendly, and I told him, and we had a good old chat. And well, why are you doing this, buddy? I said, hey, I'm just trying to exercise my rights. I'm not trying to do anything other than exercise my rights. I have a right to travel. I'm traveling in my private capacity. And he goes, Okay, I understand. He was super nice. And then the cop came over that pulled me over and he wanted my registration or my insurance, any insurance information and registration. And I said, yeah, no, I'm not giving you anything. And the police chief waved him off, said, so, and
I wonder if the police chief knows.
well, he was super nice. He goes, well, I guess you're going to get your day in court. Like he respected what I was doing or something. So anyways, that's how that went.
So
Um,
what was the ticket
it
for?
was a ticket for not displaying when you're issued plates, you need to display the plates or whatever. And they, they, they got my VIN number. They wanted the VIN. And once they had the VIN, then it showed up and it showed plates that had been issued, even though it wasn't currently registered. And so that's what they were going on, which total BS because it's no longer in their system as far as I'm concerned. And there's no way to get it out of their system really, unless you put in another system. So anyways, I got something in the mail, and in the meantime, I wrote 2 affidavits to the officer. One of the facts of everything that happened, and I had it all on videotape, and I let him know that, and I gave him 20 days to rebut anything. Otherwise, he would be in agreement with those facts. And I also gave him an affidavit of denial of corporate existence, basically stating that I am not any type of corporate entity subject, and I have no contract with any corporation or corporate government entity. So he didn't respond to any of those. When I
Mhm.
got the information from the court date, all that, I sent a writ, what's called a writ, a preemptory writ of abatement. And I sent it in and trying to make this thing go away, telling them who I was, I'm not in their jurisdiction, yada, yada, yada. And they totally ignored it, kept the court date going. So I called and talked to somebody and they said, well, too bad, we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to deal with it. You have to come in, you either pay or, the only way you can get out of paying is you can come down. Otherwise it's going to, I said, what happens if I don't do anything? Well, it's going to go, then you're going to get against your credit and yada, yada, yada. So I went down there to set an arraignment hearing and that's where I figured, okay, we'll make it go away at the arraignment hearing because make them prove jurisdiction that they don't have. And I sent in it's called a notice of rebuttal of presumption and claim of rights. And anytime you go to court, there's basically 12 presumptions that they have against we the people and they're all really bad. Basically, that we are under them in every possible way. And so the notice that I sent in rebutted all that. That it basically said, I'm one of the people here. I have inalienable rights. I will be showing up by special appearance only to straighten out the matter, all that type of stuff. So I won't go through the whole notice, but I sent that in and they filed it in as part of as part of whatever that I.
Mhm.
So then the day of the arraignment came and there were about 10 or 12 people in there and they went through every single person. And each time they get up, the person would get up there, the man or woman, they would say, okay, well, here we go. These are your rights. You have a right to this and a right to that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, none of these people are speaking up about them telling them what their rights are. And so it's just, and then they got through with everybody. After they went through everybody, there were still a couple people in the courtroom. And the judge was a little annoyed because he tried to get them out of there. It's like, okay, everybody, it's just, we only have the one case. So if your case isn't here, you leave now. And a couple of people stuck around for whatever reason. So we definitely wanted them to leave. Then he called my name and I went up there to the podium and it's on the tape if you want to play it
Yeah.
of
Oh,
what
okay, thank
happened.
you. So we have an audio recording of this okay, good. Of his court case. So let me play that. And then you can tell me if you hear this.
Yeah.
You guys can hear it?
All right, that just leaves our other
Okay, good.
traffic case for this morning. This is the matter of Matthew William Dakin, 24 TR 014529. All right, good morning, Mr. Dakin.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right, so we're here on arraignment on a traffic citation, and the way this works for today is I just advise you what your rights are.
May I, before we get started, may I interrupt you?
I'm just going to advise you what your rights are, and then you can tell me what you want to tell me, all right? So you
I
have a
know,
right
I know what my rights are. I'm not waiving any inalienable rights. I'm here by special appearance. I want to get that right from the beginning. I'm here by special appearance, not a general appearance. I'm one of the people. So I'm not waiving any rights. I have all my inalienable rights. I'm here due to threat, duress, and coercion. Let the record.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah. So at this point, I had looked up and I realized the judge had left the courtroom.
Okay, wait, I want to pause this for a second. So you just said that, and then you look up and the judge had left the room.
Yes, and I was a little bit stunned, and I was a little slow on what I should have done. And I started to say, let the record show, and then, and you'll hear that next, let the record show, and I'm starting to say, let the record show the judge has vacated the bench. I declare this case dismissed. That's what I was about to say, and I got my mic cut off.
So you just said that I am not waiving any of my unalienable rights.
Yep.
I am here by special appearance, not by general, and I am one of the people. And then that's all you said, and then he left the room.
Yes,
So
and so the good part of this that I want everyone to know is if they were purely tyrannical, he wouldn't have cared, he would have stayed in, but there's rules they follow. As soon as
they
I
have to
said
follow.
that, he had no jurisdiction over me and he had to leave.
That's why he wanted to tell you your rights because he's going to have jurisdiction over you.
Exactly. So, so far, so good. He's not being tyrannical, but now this is where then you'll see where he does become tyrannical. So this is,
okay.
so continue.
All right, we'll continue here.
Show.
So the judge left.
All right, we're back on the Dakin matter.
So the judge came back?
So I'm sorry, yeah, so the when the bailiff came over, he muted my mic and then he told me, he said, hey, you need to sit back down or I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Okay, so we can't hear that. That's what that silence was.
Right. That's exactly, because it was all muted. And he said, you need to sit back down or I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. So I thought, okay, I'll sit back down. And I sat back down for about, I don't know, a minute or two. And then the judge walks back in the room as if nothing had happened. And then you hear him start to speak.
Okay, let's go back.
So it's a round two.
Okay, here we go.
Mr. Dakin, your rights are you have a right to a hearing. You have an attorney to represent you. You're welcome to do so. You can cross-examine the officer and any other witnesses. You have the right to subpoena witnesses to testify on your behalf. You do have the right to remain silent and refuse to testify. And you do have a right to a trial within 45 days of today's arraignment. How would you like to plead today, Mr. Dakin?
Good morning, Your Honor. I am not pleading. I am not waiving any of my rights. I am coming here under special appearance.
You can reserve your right for the hearing date. I'm going to enter a not guilty plea on your behalf.
Are you acting as my attorney, Your Honor? Are you acting as my attorney, Your Honor?
Hearing date will be March 17th.
I do not consent to this. I do not consent to this. I'm coming here under special appearance, and I do not consent.
All right. That will conclude our matter for today, Mr. Dakin. You're aware of our hearing date. Not guilty pleas have been entered. You do have a hearing date within 45 days. Thank you,
This is not even, this is not even to me.
This
It's not even my name.
Thank you.
Then they cut it off again. So
Let the record show. This is,
and then, yeah, that's when they cut it off.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So he just totally ignored me and just kept talking and set a court date that, was acting as my attorney, basically.
Yeah,
Legislating from the bench, which is illegal. So I filed a judicial complaint against him, and I don't know what happened, but I thought it was pretty good. I have a copy of that here too. And then I sent it to the presiding judge. I didn't know who the judge was going to be at the trial, at the hearing, until like a day or two before. So I just sent it to the presiding judge of what had happened, how my rights had been violated by that magistrate, whatever, and the judicial complaint, a copy of the judicial complaint that I sent. And I let him know I have an audio that verifies, it corroborates everything I'm saying.
and also he cannot make a plea for you. Like,
Right,
I
that's the
can't
whole
believe he
arraignment.
did that.
Right, the whole arraignment hearing is to decide, that's where you have an opportunity. They have to prove jurisdiction. They never did that. And
Mm.
so he knew when he came back in, just to not even give me not even hesitate, don't even let me talk, just say his thing and, you know, case or court adjourned. So,
Wow. So what happens now? Because that was shocking. The judge is never, so the judge is not an attorney. He's not supposed to plea for anybody, and he just made a plea for you. That is shocking to me. And so what happens now?
well, now I'm really, really upset, because that was tyrannical.
Yeah.
That part was absolutely tyrannical. And I was, yeah, maybe I should have spoke up louder sooner the second time, but I was a little bit stunned that
Yeah.
we just played, um, so
He
anyway.
can't do that. And so his plea is
Yeah.
null and void because he can't plea for you.
Right, so my intent, okay, so we got a hearing date and they're gonna go along with this charade. And so I still was I filed the judicial complaint of everything that happened and still challenging jurisdiction. And until jurisdiction's been established, as far as I'm concerned, we can't go any further. And so that was my whole ploy going into the hearing, was we still have to prove jurisdiction. And I did a lot of work. I had a lot of questions that I had for the judge, which I think are good questions. To bring up for anybody that goes in, that I could go over some of those questions. And if it got there and went further on, I had questions for the officer, the affidavits to the officer. An affidavit is the highest evidence in law and, in commerce. And that's what all this is. And he didn't do it. And then there's other things like the penal code. Let's see, it has to be a written complaint under oath according to California Penal Code 740. Let me see that. I'm sure that didn't exist. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they were not going to be able to deal with. I was going to ask the judge first off if he took an oath to the Constitution and to the Constitution of California. And I could even divide it further down. Was it the 1871, which is the corporation? But and then, are you bound by that oath here today? Do you have a financial interest in this case?
And that's the
Your
thing,
Honor.
everybody. This is all about money because this is a corporation. All they
100%.
want is your money. So if he's asked the judge, do you have a financial, what were you going to ask?
Yeah, no, do you have a financial interest in this case?
Which he does
And he
because he
has
gets
to,
paid.
right. So,
Can you explain that to people? The judge actually gets paid per case.
yeah, yes, I'm not an expert at any of this stuff, but this is all, they create bonds and there's the QSIP number for all these cases. Each case has a QSIP number, and that's, what's that? Commission on Uniform Security Identification Procedures. So you ask, are there bonds running on this case, Your Honor? Then how come there's QSIP number associated with this case number? So there's a lot of things you can ask and put on the record they do not want to deal with. They do not want out there in the public. Because you're basically saying out loud in front of them that emperor's wearing no clothes, so and then I had questions for the officer also. Did you receive my affidavits? Why didn't you respond to them? We're just basically, by doing all this, I'm testing the integrity of the system. I'm
Mm-hmm.
challenging the system where we're finding out, and we found out right there with the judge, found out how tyrannical they would decide to be, or how unlawful, whatever, by coming back the second time, knowing that he's not going to let me say a word and get a word in edgewise and just going to enter a plea against my will, which is legislating from the bench, which is absolutely not legal or lawful for him to do that. So
what has happened now? Anything that you gotten
So,
back
so
from them?
anyway, so when I went there the second time, the officer never showed up, which, based on everything that I gave him, I'm not surprised at all. And now I
Yeah.
don't know if he decided on his own, or he and the police chief decided, yeah, don't show up, or if he was asked by the courts not to show up. But I had put so much into this court between the two affidavits I sent him. I sent him everything that I had sent the attorney generals. I sent him all the laws about driving / traveling, about registration, about, about the law, about the vehicle code, about the difference of California vehicle code. If you look up 260 and 260A and B, 260A, commercial vehicle is a motor vehicle of a type required to be registered, and 260B, passenger vehicles and house cars that are not used for the transportation of persons for hire, compensation, or profit are not commercial vehicles. But so they trick everybody into misclassifying their vehicles as commercial. And that's how they get you in their system. And then I have others like Title 18, USC 31. Title 18 is the criminal code. And you look up Title 18, United States Code 31 definitions, number 6, motor vehicle. The term motor vehicle means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers and property or cargo. So there's so many different ways. And then, what a driver is. A driver is somebody who's getting paid. It's all commerce. So,
So if you're not in commerce, then you're out of their system, but you've actually been tricked to put your car in commerce and put your car into their system, including your own license.
and
But
it
you
gets
actually,
even further, it's even more than that when you get down to like where the jurisdiction actually ends. And who this is all for, it's all for quote unquote persons. What's person? A person is a legal entity. A person is one of those US citizens. It's one of those government subjects. That's what a person is. So it's not a man or a woman. So that's basically, that's it. That's what happened. And unfortunately, I had to do a lot of work. It was a ton of paperwork to
so
be
it's paperwork.
prepared for all this, a ton of work to be back sort of at square one again. Where the next cop that's I have the dismissal, so I'll be able to show that to the next cop that pulls me over. Look, we're gonna play this game again. I already, so, but that's basically that's what happened. And I sent other stuff into, like, when I did my passport in 2020, correcting my status, I put an affidavit in there making it very clear that I'm one of the people of the several states of the union. I'm not a 14th Amendment US citizen. So I put that's in there with the court. I mean, a ton of information they had. They know who I am, and it was going to be so. So I can't tell you exactly why the cop didn't show up, but again, it did not surprise me at all that he didn't show up, because they weren't going to be able to overcome any of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't believe, did anything happen with that judge? Because that's totally illegal what he did.
I
Unlawful.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I got something back from it's the judges overseeing other judges. That when you file a judicial complaint, then it's literally other judges that are retired judges that are overseeing the current judges. So it's it's a fox guard in a hen house. So it's really, I got something basically telling them how the system works, but I don't know if anything happened or not. So, I mean,
That's awesome though. That's fantastic. And I just want to say so much mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much for just doing, just go doing it. Just having the courage to do it. Because honestly, Matt, it does take courage to do what you did. And this is not for everybody. So again, you guys, if you're watching this, entertainment and educational purposes only. If you want to learn more, go to blossominnerwellness.com. It's free to join my private membership. You'll have free access to the Freedom School that gives you more information on this, but it's your kuleana, your responsibility to do more work if you're interested in learning this. This is not going to be for everybody. This is definitely not going to be for everybody, because it does take some gumption to stand up and to honor your unalienable rights. However, for those of you that it is for, do your due diligence before you do anything like this, because messing with the cops, don't mess with them. Go into court. They have guns. Don't do anything that is going to put you in harm's way. Be respectful, and then do it in the court system. That was fantastic. You had a judge leave the courtroom because you know what the heck is going on, and he knew you knew, and he knew he was in the wrong, and that was fantastic. So it is gonna, the more of us that do this, the more we can put them on their toes, and also the more that the truth comes out that the federal corporation is just that. It's the United States is a corporation, not a government, and they're for money, not for the people. So anything else you want to share, Matt?
No, yeah, you said it perfectly. I completely agree. And yeah, I just, we all need to do this eventually. We all need to get to a place where we feel comfortable doing this. And there's other things you need to do first, like getting out of the system, understanding what it means to be one of the people, a national of the United States, and there's a lot of tricks. There's different places. Go to Michelle's site, her school, learn how they use words like a small s state versus a large s state. All the state ofs, they're all capital S, states, different than California state, the
Mm-hmm.
landmass, the de jure state, completely different. So they use a ton of trickery, and it's just a lot of studying to understand this, to get out of their system, to get out of their, and this, once you understand this, then you realize the IRS, the same thing, the Internal Revenue Service, Franchise Tax Board, all the different taxing agencies that are out there, and your relationship to them, and this is how you free yourself, is understanding this information. And
Mm-hmm.
this costs it impacts us the least financially versus IRS and other things, property taxes. And it's the highest for bad consequences, like Michelle's saying, when you're dealing with cops along the side of the road. So be careful. But again, if we don't all start heading this way and exercising our rights and learning our rights, then we'll have no rights, and we'll be paying for everything that they come up with, like going from point A to point B that we're all paying for right now in one way or another. They're going to continue to do this to us. So we have to learn our rights and stand up for them. So thank you,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah, and also in our general plan on Big Island, they have a thing that says reduce vehicle miles traveled. So I'm wondering, I'm curious, are they going to be fining people for going over certain mileage? That's totally against the Constitution. That's totally against our right to travel. So lots of different things that are happening. But Matt, again, thank you so much. And you guys watching, blossominnerwellness.com. It's free to join my private membership. There are some videos I've done with Matt, and also I'll show you what I've done to get out of the system. And my last question, Matt, for myself, what's the difference between a national and a state citizen, like California state citizen?
Same exact thing.
Okay,
Same
they're the
exact thing.
same
National of the United States of America is the same as, and when you're a state citizen of your state,
of your state.
then you're also a national of the United States of America. So
Yes.
it's the same exact thing, just another way of saying it.
And that's not, you guys, not, that is different from a United States citizen. Okay,
Correct.
those are different things. So blossominnerwellness.com. Please again, like and subscribe to this channel, because again, I am in YouTube jail until May 22nd. I don't know how many times I've been in YouTube jail, or probation actually. It's been numerous times since 2021. So, all right, let's do a quick prayer, Matt. Infinite Creator, Great Spirit of all things. Oh my gosh, what a game we came to play. So much mahalo for Matt and his courage and his willingness to take a stand for freedom, unalienable rights. Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, under you, unalienable rights that you gave us, because you are beating our hearts and you are breathing our bodies. You're moving the sun, you're guiding the tides, you're guiding honeybees to their next flower. There's an infinite intelligence that's all around us, and our hearts are connected with that infinite intelligence, and our hearts are connected to our intuition, which is signaling to us what is ours to do. And we follow that guided intuition, Great Spirit. We follow it with courage. We follow it with awareness, with education, with learning, and with understanding and knowing what is ours to do, and trusting in you, Great Spirit, trusting in why we even came here in the first place, because this is all a game. This is all a game. And we know that the truth is here, that light is shining so brightly on all of the places around the world that have been attacked, that people's homes that have burned. We know that the truth is unfolding, not just with these attacks, but also with this. the information of the corporate government, the corporations that are still trying to take even more of our freedoms away. Great Spirit, we trust in you. We trust in what is each of ours to do, and we let the rest go. Great Spirit, we know that it is done. We know that this world is becoming a better place, that harmony and peace and true freedom that we even can't fathom right now, true freedom that you gave us, Great Spirit, is here on the planet. We trust that. We keep going forward, and we know that it is done as legions of angels are always around us, as our guides are always with us, because we are never, ever, ever alone. You are with us, Great Spirit. We trust you. We trust our own journey. And so it is. Mahalo, Matt, for joining me. And again, you guys, mahalo for watching.
Thank you, Michelle.
Entertainment purposes only. Love you. Okay, stop recording.